Hi everyone, it's Kelvin Hoy the Cinephile. Thank you so much for watching. I'm back. It feels good to be back. Feels a little strange. But yes, I haven't done this in a while, so bear with me. Today is a very special episode. I wanted to do this. I've been putting it off, a little bit busy, a little bit lazy. But this is the top 10 films of 2019 in my opinion. So of course I'm not this isn't my job, so I haven't watched 200 films or 250 films or 300 films last year for 2019. I'm missing quite a few. I'm missing Parasites. I'm missing, what else? Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I've heard that one's beautiful. But anyways, I did watch 50, 55, possibly 60 films this year, and this is a top 10. So I want to give you my opinion on what I really like this year. And this is just my opinion, but I hope it helps you. Maybe seek out some films that you wouldn't have originally. But yes, let's get to it. So I'm going to try not to go too long here. I have my 10 films here. And I'll just say one or two sentences about each and why I believe they belong in the top 10 or my top 10. And I don't want to go through plot or anything like that. I'll try not to. Okay, at number 10 is The Lego Movie, Part 2. Um, I'm laughing because I think this film was. It's both underrated and not. Like, it's a sequel to The Lego Movie, obviously. And The Lego Movie was 5 years ago, 6 years ago by this recording date. But it was 5 years ago between the two films. And that's a long time. It took a lot of time to try to create a good sequel. I believe they did. I find it very funny, very clever. They used Chris Pratt well. They used his celebrity or his acting career very well in the film. The plot is a bit messy, especially towards the second half. Towards the end of the film. And I'll try not to give like huge spoilers in this video, just in case people haven't seen these films. But yes, the second half is a little messy in terms of plot. So that's why it's at my number 10. I debated, these number 9 and number 10s. Rocket Man did not make it onto my list. That probably would have been number 10 rather than the Lego Movie, but I chose the Lego Movie because I don't know, I just think it's really difficult to be funny, and it is funny. It's funny, it has moments of delight. I won't say it's as delightful as the first Lego Movie. I think that one really took everyone by surprise in a positive way, and really was a cultural moment where people said, "Oh, Lego Movie, like this will be terrible," but it actually turned out to be good. And I watched it, and I laughed really hard in the first one. I laughed in the second one as well, but I remember watching the first one at home with my family, and yeah, when it first came out in theaters, I was like, "This is so silly! Like this is so dumb." But then people were saying, like adults were saying, "This is a great film," and so I did watch it on video, and I watched Lego Movie Part 2 in theaters with my wife, and yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's very difficult to be funny, so that's why it's on this list. Okay, number 9, another funny film, but it's more than funny. Number 9 is Shazam. Saying that with emphasis. So, I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of what DC has been doing lately. I think I don't want to get into it, but they've made some errors along the way, and I don't mean the films. I like Man of Steel. Love, I love Man of Steel. Pardon my language. Choice of words. I love Man of Steel. I really like Batman v Superman, the extended cut. Justice League was disappointing for so many obvious reasons. But I'm not a huge fan of what they've been doing, which is, oh, let's get away from the dark. Let's get away from the darkness. Let's go towards light and fun. Like, they're just obsessed with fun, right? Which is partially the audience's fault, partially their fault for listening. But Shazam, so I watched Shazam on streaming. I didn't watch it in theaters because I didn't want to. But I watched Shazam recently, actually, just before the holidays, um, before Christmas Day, and I really enjoyed this film. There are some minor things, again, plot, I don't want to get into it, but there's some minor plot details that are like, don't really work very well. A couple of actors are not fantastic. They won't be winning Academy Awards anytime soon. Um, but yes, I mean, I think this film is, again, like the Lego Movie Part 2, there are moments of delight in Shazam. It's bordering on a delightful film. You know, it's really lovely film. I think there's um, there's moments of emotion, some emotional beats, moments of sadness, and I think it works really well. I think this is more of a family picture, even though there are moments, you know, a couple of jokes that are a little bit rude. So it's not for 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds. It's still a superhero film. There's a little bit of violence, but yes, I really enjoyed Shazam. Much to my chagrin, because I didn't really want to support it, but I did enjoy it, and much to my surprise. Now I heard, you know, I got great reviews. I believe it's still 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and maybe 88 or 89 on the audience score. So it's consistent. I mean, a lot of people enjoy this film, and I really enjoyed it as well. So that's my number 9. That's Shazam. Okay. Also, one more thing about Shazam. Sorry, this is my video, so I can do that. I thought Zachary Levi was very good. I thought Jack Dylan Grazer, I believe that's his name. He was in It as well. He's very good in the film. I thought, I think it's Asher. I can't even remember his last name, Asher, but his first name's Asher, and and he was very good. He didn't. He and Zachary Levi don't match. Like, that's not good casting. So there's little things about the film that aren't perfect. So that's why it's number 9. But I do think it taps into the joy of being a superhero, but also the responsibility, which is, I think that's what people want Superman to be. Maybe a little bit less silly, but you know, that sort of tapping into the joy of it, which I think they were trying to get to. Okay, so enough about Shazam. So Shazam was number 9. Number 8, Marriage Story. So again, we watched Marriage Story before the holiday, a nice holiday film. It was a very dramatic film. In I think the first week of December. So I watched Marriage Story with my wife, and it was on Netflix. So we watched it at home. It was very, very well done, besides a couple of moments. So I think it was, like, I've never been more attracted to Scarlett Johansson, somehow. Except for a couple of moments on the red carpets. But, you know, when she was like really, when she was really coming into her own, in her early 20s. But it was, Marriage Story is a beautiful film. If you know anything, I think it's not a spoiler to say it's a film about a couple that goes through a divorce. And so it's through the lens of a divorce, and you see, it's a love story through the lens of a divorce, which is very specific. So through this divorce, you know, and it's the opening sequence, you see what they love about each other, which is really sweet, and then they go through the process of a divorce. And I think it's a very emotional film. I think it's very well acted. Adam Driver is great. Fantastic acting. Scarlett, like I said, for whatever reason, she's very charming in this film. I don't know why. Like, I find her more charming in this than anything I've ever seen her in. And I've seen her in Nanny Diaries, the Marvel films, what else? The Island, which I don't know if she was supposed to be charming in The Island, but I mean, I've seen her in 6, 7 films, and she's never been more charming than in this film. So I think that says something about the director, Noah Baumbach, probably butchering his last name, but I think he did a really great job, and this is, and I wanted to have a good eclectic top 10 list, but Marriage Story is my number 8. It's very dramatic, very well acted. They have a great climatic scene that's just all acting, and if I think it covers relationships, not really even divorce. If you've ever been through a fight, if you've ever been in a fight with someone that you care about, I think this film, you can relate to it. And the child actor is really good. I have no idea what his name is. Never looked it up. But he's good. And this is an acting movie. So Laura Dern is great. Oh my goodness. Everyone's good. Alan Arkin's good. Yeah, but I think those are the top 3. Adam Driver, Scarlett, and Laura Dern, who is going to win an Academy Award this weekend for Best Supporting Actress. So I think it's a really great dramatic film, and you don't see too many of those. I think Blue is the Warmest Color is another one that it sort of reminded me of, and I watched that in 2017, I believe, so it's been a while since I've seen a film like that. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but a little bit different for me, but I liked it. Okay, so moving on, number 7. I'm counting, 10, 9, 8, 7. Yeah, number 7, Judy. So I really enjoyed Judy. I think it's not the best shot or the best directed or the uh, best special effects. Obviously, there are no special effects, but it has good makeup and hair, and it's really, people keep saying, "Oh, it's just the performance of Renee Zellweger," and her performance is great. Again, she's going to win an Academy Award this weekend, Best Actress. So, but that involves her comeback story. So there's a little bit of that, but it's a very good performance, excellent performance, and it's about someone that I admire and someone that I've been interested in for a very long time. And I thought they did a great job of it's a biographical film. It's about oh my goodness, my brain. It's about Judy Garland, who's just lovely in The Wizard of Oz. I have not seen her in anything else, which I should, but she was in A Star is Born in the 1950s and Mimi in St. Louis, both musicals. But I've seen her perform. Like, I actually watched her perform much later in life on YouTube, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is, of course, her most famous song. But Renee does a great job. I think the rest of the cast is good as well. Maybe a couple of very small parts, but I think everyone's good in the cast. There's nobody that's really poor or doesn't belong there. So I think the cast is good. I think the film is very decent. Very decent. It's number 7 on my list. And I think it's well done. I just think there aren't musical numbers, not musical in that sense. Well, there are musical numbers, but it's on stage. So they're all on stage, so it all makes sense in that context. It's not they're walking down the streets like Enchanted and they start singing, right? So it's not that, but I think the musical numbers on stage are done well. Zellweger's performance is Academy worthy, Oscar worthy. So I really enjoyed it, and I watched this by myself. So I, with a audience full of older gentlemen and older ladies. It was very, very interesting. I think I was the youngest one in there, and I'm not that young, in my early 30s. So, yes, it's interesting to watch a film with an audience of, everyone was over 50, in their 50s and 60s, and that's because of Judy Garland. So they probably grew up with The Wizard of Oz and her other films when they were children. But yeah, it's a very sad story, and it touched me because she's dealing with anxiety and failure and hopelessness and all these things. Not that I want to overstate my own life or anything, but I have felt lately, like in the past year or two, like more anxiety than I've ever felt before, which is funny. Um, like I had no anxiety when I was 8 or 10 or there is like that's more nervousness, like it passes. So I really related to Judy Garland in this film, and it was it's well done. I think everything's really well done. There's flashbacks in the film, so you see young Judy Garland in the studio system. And if it's not, this is just my opinion, but it's not normal for a child, an 8-year-old, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, to work. It's just not normal. 16's okay. But it's really not normal for anyone under the age of 10 to work. 10, 11, 12 to work. It's just not. They just mentally, and to be in a tough environment too, right? They're not treating you like a child. They're treating you like an adult, and you're 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, and so that really messes up. That really damages people, and it damages their psyches. And I've always stated, as sort of a joke to myself, oh, if I ever have a child who wants to become an actor or an actress, the answer is no. Until you turn 18. Then legally you can do whatever you want. But I think really, yeah, I think everyone needs that foundation of normalcy. And Judy Garland's childhood was not normal, and that obviously affected her in later life. Okay, so it's a great film. I really enjoyed it. Check it out. Number 6 is Toy Story 4. Okay, so I did a review for Toy Story 4 on this channel if you want to check it out. That would be much appreciated. But, I get into spoilers there. But Toy Story 4, so this is the 4th one in one of the greatest series of films of all time. And this one, I say the first 3/4 match everything that was in Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3. Like, the animation's beautiful, with technology obviously advancing with each passing year. But the story's good too. I mean, and we've been with Woody and Buzz, but Woody especially in this film, for literally 20 years. So I believe it's 23 years, or 24. 24 years. So, our real time 24 years. So I watched this when I was a child, and now I'm old, an adult. And so it's about his story, but it reflects on us. Like, it reflects our lives, if that makes sense. Like, what I'm trying to say is, things change, and our lives change, and we have to evolve and just make decisions, and make difficult decisions. And that's what Woody has to do in this film. So, like, when you're watching this as a kid, it's sort of like, oh, it's cool, because toys can talk, and that's what we've always wanted. As human beings, it's like, oh, I wonder if the toys talk, right? As children, we think that, but here in Toy Story 4, it's just like an existential crisis, an existential question, right? It's like, what do I do? I have no idea what to do with my existence, and so that touched me. But it's really cool that they've been able to do that, and like I said, the first 3/4 are great. The ending's not bad. I actually think the ending's quite good. The actual result, the actual outcome. I just think maybe the last 20 minutes get a little bit silly, and I know people say, oh, it's animated, or it's for children. Toy Story, like Pixar, the best of Pixar films, the best of Disney animated films, they're never just for children. Never. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday, and about Pinocchio, and that darn donkey scene. It's one of the, like, I can't watch Pinocchio. I've only seen Pinocchio twice in my life, and it's because of that donkey scene. It's one of the most horrific, terrifying scenes in cinematic history. Yes, as I was saying, the Pinocchio scene, the donkey scene is absolutely horrific. So I don't think any animated film is just for children, and Toy Story 4 is not for children. Like I said, I think it's actually more for adults, and everyone that grew up with these films. Of course, it's great entertainment. It's really sweet, really funny, really touching. Has touching moments, and yes, that's why it's at my number 6. Okay, so I'm gonna hurry up a little bit here. Number 5 is How to Train Your Dragon 3. How to Train Your Dragon 3. So I thought this one was, so why is it above Toy Story 4? I think it's number 3 first of all, so they don't have as much work to do. I think 4 films in a series, like once you get to number 4 and number 5, like Bond with No Time to Die, which will come out later this year. I didn't see the 4th one. I didn't see Spectre. But even number 3, I was starting to feel like a little bit. Oh, this is, old hats. This is getting a little slightly boring. But How to Train Your Dragon 3. The first film came out in 2010, so it's a 9-year journey for everyone who loves these films. I was blown away by the first one. Again, I watched it later at home, but it's a really beautiful film. Mostly good jokes, a little bit of silliness. But yeah, Toy Story, How to Train Your Dragon 3, pardon me. How to Train Your Dragon 3 is the culmination of the story. It's the ending. I think it ends beautifully. It's really well done. The villain is a bit weak. I think we've sort of seen a version of this villain in the second film. But overall, I think it's good. It's funny, beautifully animated. It's a good story about Hiccup and Toothless and their journey and the ending of that journey, that specific journey, and why and how they both move on. So that's why it's at my number 5. I think it's well done. I think it's a satisfying ending. So I think people watching this film who watch the first 2 will be happy with it. Yeah. So number 4 is 1917. Back to live action, back to drama. So you might have noticed, here's a couple more. So basically my film is animated films, superhero films, and dramas. I have a few. I mean, Judy's a musical, sort of, so that's the only one. Unfortunately, Rocket Man, I couldn't put you on here. But it's really about feeling, right? Like, how does it make you feel? How do these films make you feel? So, 1917 is tense, it's well shot, it's impressive, it's beautiful, it's sad. There's a sense of melancholy to the film. Obviously, it's about World War One, about this very specific mission. Over the course of, I believe it's less than 24 hours, but I'll say 24 hours. It might be 12 hours. But anyways, somewhere between that, right? It's a very short period of time. It's a very short window. It's beautifully done. I think the 2 main actors, I don't know their names. I did look them up, but I can't remember right now. Do a good job. Some people say they deserve a lot more credit and deserve some Oscar talk. I think maybe you could make George McKay, I believe. You could make a case that he does. I think the other actor, unfortunately I don't know his name, he was on Game of Thrones. I learned that over the past couple of weeks. I think George McKay might, he could have had a SAG award nomination, or even maybe Best Actor for supporting, Best Acting for nomination, Best Actor. But yeah, it's it's dramatic. There's a couple of brutal moments in the film. It's not super violent. Like, I think when it's a war film and you see, it's a war film, so I don't think this is a spoiler to see like hundreds of dead bodies on the ground. I mean, that's pretty brutal. And it's not live. It's not like I'm seeing this, with my own eyes, on a field or at a park. You're seeing it through a screen, on the screen, but it's still brutal to see that. Just like there's a scene in It 2 where you see some dead bodies as well, and I was like, I was just like shaking my head in the theater. But yes, 1917 might win Best Picture this weekend. I think it's beautiful. It's really done. There was a lot of talk. Technically, it is very impressive. The cinematography is by Roger Deakins. Uh, and it's really, really well done. I mean, I don't want to say I love war films. I think that's, but it is like there's nothing more dramatic. I mean, there's nothing more dramatic than being at war. You know, I mean, literally your life could be over in less than a second. Um, so that's pretty dramatic, and there's a real life horror to having to shoot someone or someone shooting at you. Um, but yeah, so 1917 is my number 4. Okay, so is there anything else I want to say about 1917? Oh, a lot of technical achievements in this film. I think a lot has been made about the one shot. It's not actually one shot, but you know they make it it's just these long takes, like 10, 15-minute takes, which the actors practice and rehearsed obviously before shooting it. Um, but yeah, it's very impressive. I really enjoy the long takes. I think if there's a purpose for a long take, then you know it's great. And there is a purpose for editing as well. There's a reason why there's, you know, when two people are having a dialogue scene, you shoot it from this side and you shoot it from this side. Like, you want their facial expressions. But I think they did a really good job with this and the emotion. Um, I don't think it's the most emotional film of the year. I think probably Marriage Story was more emotional for me, but I do think overall it's a great film. Okay, number 3, Klaus, or Klaus, or I think it's Klaus. So this is a Netflix film. They scooped it up. I can't remember the director's name. I believe it's Sergio, but he did an incredible job. So the animation it's hand drawn animation. It's 2D, but it's shaded, or it's filmed, or it's presented in such a way that it looks 3D. So that's really impressive. And it's sort of that's the animation where it's, you know, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit interesting. The characters aren't like, it's not like The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast where the girls are absolutely gorgeous, and even I'm trying to think, Mulan even, right, where like everyone looks great, if that makes sense. I know you can do a lot with animation. Like I'm in awe of these people who can draw, but I think Klaus, like they're going for that little. It's a little bit different, the animation. Like the children are a little funky looking. I know some kids are, you know, some kids are beautiful and some are, you know, a little. The children, they look a little squished. But yeah, Klaus is absolutely a beautiful story, and they take the Santa Claus story and sort of change it in such clever ways, like little ways, and it fits into the legend or how the legend began. And so how would he you know, go through the chimney, right? Like how would he do that, and why would he bring gifts to children in the first place? And so they answer these questions in a really interesting way, and I really love the film. It touched me. I think it's beautiful, and I just heard about it again. You know, people saying it's a new classic. This is a new Christmas classic, and I was like, really, really. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch it. And I watched it, and I loved it. I think maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes are not a little bit rough. Just because, and that's the character. I can't remember his name, but the main character, you know, obviously has to start, you know, sort of, he's a bit of a jerk. He has to start at that place, at that spot, pardon me, and then he has to grow, of course. But yeah, it's beautifully animated, and it might steal the Academy Award this weekend. I keep talking about the Academy Awards. That's because it's happening this weekend, as I'm filming this. But it's a beautiful film. I think it is the best animated film of the year for me. And this year was really interesting because there's a lot of films. Like I'd say, except for the top three of my list, number 4 to 10, there's a lot of films I could sort of shift their positions, and like I mostly really enjoyed them, really liked them. Maybe one or two moments that I was like, that doesn't make that much sense, or I don't like that moment, you know. And I think Klaus, there's nothing in it that's maybe again the first 5 minutes are a little bit, you know, I was like, ooh, what is this film, right? Like, is he gonna be this way the whole time? Like, and he is that way for like the first half, but you know, obviously he does grow, and I think it's beautiful. Okay, number two, Spider-Man: Far From Home. I believe this film is a superhero film. It doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. It's fantastic. This is the seventh Spider-Man film. That does not include Captain America: Civil War. Does not include the Avengers films where he pops up. This is the seventh Spider-Man film since 2002, in less than 20 years. Uh, we're at number 8 in less than 20 years, because I believe it's coming out in 2021. And the first Spider-Man film came out in 2002 when I was a teenager. And I was a perfect age. I was 15 when it came out, just before my 16th birthday. I watched it. So I was 15 years old. I love the original Spider-Man, but Tom Holland is fantastic as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. This film has Mysterio, which I don't love him. He's not my favorite villain, but I was really excited because it's a new villain for Spider-Man in the cinematic world. He's never been done before, and they did a great job. I was like, how are they gonna do this? Like, how are they gonna make Mysterio, like, he has a green costume, and they make the costume look really cool. It's sort of like Roman, so it's sort of historical, and like, how are they gonna make that fishbowl look cool, or how are they gonna explain that? And they do such a good job explaining everything. And I think most people have seen this film, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying Gyllenhaal gives a great performance. The costume is explained in a great way, like in a way that makes sense. Like there's one scene, maybe 3/4 into the film, where he's explaining everything that I don't, where the film explains everything, like how he does this, that I don't love. I think it's a little bit cheesy, a little bit corny to explain everything for the audience. But I don't hate it. Like, I think you do have to explain most of it, right? You can't just say, oh, well, whatever, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, whatever. Don't worry about it. Just don't think about it. Just enjoy the film, which like happens in Lego Movie Part 2. I think even Toy Story 4, right, gets into that silly territory where it doesn't really make any sense or much sense. But yeah, I think Spider-Man: Far From Home should be on many more top 10 lists. I was looking at like Metacritic, right, and they collected 100, let's say, maybe more than 100, like top 10 lists. And I think Spider-Man: Far From Home was on 2. Same with Klaus, it was on 2. That's silly, that's ridiculous, but it's on my list, so that's the important thing. I think the action's great. Oh, the action's really good. There's a couple of really psychedelic scenes in this film, and they're really well done. So I really think Spider-Man: Far From Home. I don't know which one I like more, Homecoming or Far From Home. I don't know. I think Homecoming maybe is a bit simpler if you like that. Like, it's a bit more straightforward. And then Far From Home is a sequel, obviously, so it's a little bit more complex in a way, and Peter Parker and MJ, you know, get a little bit closer, so it's an evolution as well. But yes, I really love Spider-Man: Far From Home. There are 2 or 3 sequences in that film that blow me away. Okay, last but not least, number 1, it has to be, it's the culmination of a 11-year journey for Tony Stark, for the audience. It is Avengers: Endgame. I don't think I have to say too much about this. It is a beautiful film. It's really well done. There's a couple of really great moments. I think I'm going to talk about the plot a little bit here, because if you haven't seen this by now, you're not going to watch it. So maybe I can convince you. But there's this moment where the Avengers, they bring back everyone who is lost in the snap. And they bring back everyone, and there's this beautiful moment where, you know, it's silent, and then you hear the birds chirping. Because every creature on Earth, half the creatures on Earth were eliminated, were dusted. And so the birds start coming back, and you think, oh, the animals are starting coming back, whales, etc. And of course, all the human beings. So I thought that was such a beautiful touch. And, people say, oh, superhero films. No, this film is beautiful. They worked so hard on it. The special effects are great. The scope of it is amazing. I love that they spent over $200 million on it. Because this film deserves it. And it's the highest grossing film of all time worldwide. It beat Avatar, yes, because Avatar does not deserve it. I'm sorry, I don't want to get into it, but it does not. So yes, Avengers Endgame, and there's so many moments. I mean, when Cap gets the hammer, I can never pronounce it. It's Mjolnir, right? Mjolnir, when he gets the hammer, it's just such a great moment. It's one of my favorite moments in cinematic history. They made us wait for it, but it's great. And of course, I just want to check how much time I have here. Yes, I have time. So really quickly, I have 2 minutes. I just think Tony Stark's death it's fantastic. His last line is delivered well. It's just such a great line, when Thanos says, I am inevitable, and Tony Stark has the gauntlets. Like, that shot is iconic. I think people will study this in film schools next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like, how to build a universe properly. And, that shot of him holding it and saying that line, and I am Iron Man. It's so good. I don't want to get choked up thinking about it. But, and they did it. They did not fall flat on their face. That's incredible. That's incredible. Like, it could have gone wrong in so many different ways, and it's not. It's funny. I know some people didn't like the Thor character in this one, or the Thor stuff, the Thor material in this one, his storyline. But I did smile and chuckle. I think there's, maybe it was a little bit overdone. That's one of my only criticisms of this film. But it's a beautiful film. It's well shot. The special effects are great. It's comical. There's great humor in this one. I think this one, Infinity War, Civil War, Spider-Man films, those are all Guardians, the first Guardians. They're hilarious films. It has humor. It's so difficult to be funny, especially for me. I don't laugh at that much. And it's emotional and dramatic. And everyone gets a meaningful send-off. Black Widow, Cap, his ending is so perfect. And they end on him. It's so well done, and it's slow dance. It's not like a cliffhanger or anything like that. It's so great. Steve and Peggy, that scene is so beautiful. And like I said, Tony gets one of the best deaths in cinematic history. Downey Jr., his acting is fantastic in the film. Should have probably received the Best Supporting nod just collectively for his work. Just a nod, not a win. Just to say a thank you to you for doing such great work over 11 years. But yes, that is my top 10 list. Please hit subscribe, like this video, tell your friends to watch this channel. I love making videos for you guys. I've gotten several very kind comments, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. And that's my top 10. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? I know I'm missing Parasite. I apologize. I just didn't watch it. The Farewell, which is a Chinese film, so I should really watch that. But yes, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much. Until next time, this is the Cinephile. Thank you. Bye.